Welcome, welcome, everybody. I am back. So great to be here and wonderful to see some new subscribers. Fantastic. And I'm going to enjoy sharing some more content with you, and I'm hoping that you're going to enjoy it and find it very informative. There's one of my cats pushing some things down. She feels like she wants some attention right now. Well, now one of the topics I wanted to discuss tonight is about transitioning away from veganism and the early stages of getting our gut conditioned into having those animal foods back in our system again, particularly increasing the microbiome communities and allowing our bodies to start produce more bile to deal with the animal fats, and how to go about doing that in increments. So what I'm going to share with you tonight is, number one, I started making some fermented and cultured foods when I first started transitioning away from veganism, and I found them to be so just beneficial for me. I just love the taste. I love making it. Now, this is a yogurt and it's made with coconuts and lime juice. So I'm going to go through the steps to making that and how to make it shortly. I'm also going to introduce you to some elixirs, fermented elixirs I make, and how I top those up to keep them going, and how I use particular fruits that also boost the enzymatic content. So first of all, a lot of people ask me about what happened to me. What was the actual event that was that projected me forward into realizing that I couldn't go on being vegan any longer? Well, it was around, I think, May last year when I had 2 bouts of food poisoning in a row, probably about a month apart. The second one was so intense, and I wasn't sure it was food poisoning at the time. It wasn't food, it was actually, as it turned out, to be some water, that stagnant water that some vegetables were sitting in, all right? Now, normally your body would deal with those kinds of things if it had a strong immune system. So this was telling me that my immunity had really got to the stage where I was just, it was open season basically for bacteria to come in and create havoc, because I didn't have the guards there. The hydrochloric acid in myself was quite low, and I just wasn't, I'd come to the end of the line really, and particularly from, as I mentioned in a recent video with Megan, the cholesterol side. So what happened was, I remember this so vividly. I really feel I had divine intervention. I really do. And I think I mentioned last year, a lot of people seem to have hit the wall around veganism. It was almost like they really had a big wake-up call. And so I was lying in bed with these incredible knife-like cramps, and it was just horrendous. I was up vomiting, and I was just feeling panicky, and I didn't know what to do because, as I said, I'd only just previously endured another episode similar to this. I thought, what's going on? And that was accompanied with, a lot of inflammatory pain. And I just broke down and started crying because, I was writing a book and I just had these things I wanted to do, and I just realized I was just falling apart. And I really got this incredibly strong message. It was like a voice came in, very distinct, very different, and said, go eat eggs and go eat fish. And I knew that it was a gift because I'd asked for help. I really was at that point. So consequently, that's what I did. And yeah, it was difficult. But again, I felt the benefits immediately, and little by little, I began to eat more of it. So fish and eggs was what I started with. And I think it was also telling me that I had to get my digestion into a state where it could handle chickens and meats and that required a stronger digestion. So that's what happened. And so I began to make some sauerkrauts, and I began to make fermented foods. So if you are at the initial stage of transitioning away from veganism, this is what worked for me, and it's worked for other people I've been coaching and guiding and mentoring, is to begin with those two things, eggs and fish. Now, dairy for a lot of people, they're not attracted to it, or they discover that they're lactose intolerant, and often it upsets their stomach. So please don't just go and eat something or have something because you've read someone else at work for, or this is what you do. If you aren't getting an attraction call, in other words, your body is not saying, yeah, I'd like to have this, then don't, So this is also part of restructuring your ability to listen more to yourself, to your intuitive side that's trying to guide you towards the best nutrition for you. So, by the way, you might notice I'm actually filling out here. And I'm going to just demonstrate something here. To my arms. Now, I don't do any exercise. Maybe lift things around the place. This is incredible. It doesn't go. It stays there. And I'm nearly 63, so I think that there's definitely distinct changes going on, and I'll mention some more of those in a minute. So that's what we did. So, all right, now you can start to make some fermented foods at home. I'm not going to do sauerkraut tonight because I'm actually moving tomorrow, and it may be a bit echoey, so I want to, because the kitchen is being cleared out and packed up, going to a wonderful rural area where I'll be surrounded by organic rice fields, and I can't wait to film from there because it's just beautiful. So now coconut yogurt. Obviously, fresh young coconuts are what you need. To get a jar like this size, 3 to 4 coconuts. It's a bit hard to anticipate how much coconut meat is going to be in your coconut. Sometimes there's, quite a thick layer. Other times it's quite pulpy, and you don't get a lot. So don't worry about that. Just fill your blender with, you will need your blender for this, with the meat from 3 coconuts. And reserve the water aside. I don't use a lot of the water to make the yogurt because I like it thick. So I'm going to show you. It's just beautiful. It really is. Oh, so tangy. Really, really thick. I'll just put some in a bowl here. And you can see that texture. Super smooth, super tangy, just gorgeous. So I use the juice of a whole lime, a good sized lime, by the way, okay? Make sure it's got some yellow on it. That's a bit right. So I squeeze that into the blender with the coconut meat from 3 or 4 coconuts. It doesn't matter. I don't kind of measure too much, but this will just give you a good jar this size. So, all right. And I put in about 1/2 cup of the coconut water. With the rest that's remaining, we're going to add a probiotic into that to make some coconut kefir water, or I add it into my elixirs. I top it up. So, diverting here. This is pineapple, and it is oh, it has ginger and turmeric in it as well. Now this I've been reusing over 2 months. So I made that originally with cut pineapple, cut ginger and turmeric in it, and some cloves. You can put some other spices in if you wish. And I filled it up with coconut water. And then put some probiotic in, a good high-strength probiotic capsule. Now that will be your mother stock. So you'll be able to take a little bit of that, reserve that when you've drunk it down to start another batch. So anyway, I'll continue with that in a moment. We'll just finish the yogurt side. So once you've put in half a cup of the coconut water in with the coconut meat into the blender with the juice of a lime, you blend it up until it's super smooth and creamy, okay? Now you might need to add a little bit more coconut water just to get a good consistency. Now I like my yogurt nice and thick, so and you'll find you'll have more success if it's a good thicky kind of texture before it ferments. All right, so then you pour it into a jar and, you add a probiotic capsule in before you blend it all up. Then you pour it into a jar, okay, and add, before you do that, I'm jumping ahead again, some vanilla, some cinnamon, and I sometimes put cardamom in. Vanilla, just a capful, a good teaspoon of cinnamon and some cardamom. That's what I like. You could even grate some ginger, fresh ginger if you wanted, just to make it also more therapeutic for the digestion. So, okay, so once that's all blended, then I pour it into the jar and fill it up. You'll probably find if you've got at least 2 inches, 3 or an inch or so is enough. Because what's going to happen is, I have to eat that, is you're going to sit it on the counter with a paper towel over the top of it, very lightly. It doesn't need to be sealed down or secured with a rubber band because it is going to grow once the bacteria starts. And sometimes I've come out in the morning and it's right up the top, you know, out of the jar, like a big puff, cream puff. So that's wonderful. It tells me it's just fermented beautifully. Now, depending on where you are in the world and the climate, the season, time of the year, also determines how it's going to ferment. Obviously, I'm in North Thailand. It's quite humid right now. We're just coming out of winter. Yes, we have a winter here and it's quite cool. Much different from South Thailand. So this fermented overnight, and just keep it in a warm spot. You might be near a fridge or something that's you know, going to ensure that it's a good temperature. Okay, and just stick that over the top. Now, when you come out in the morning, leave it overnight. It will have risen. Now, you can leave it out further through the day if you want it a little bit more tart. And sometimes I do that because the lime juice is helping it ferment as well as the probiotic, okay? So that's it. It's extremely simple. And I love using lime juice in it. I think that really, it just makes the fermentation a lot more zippier and it just speeds it up, just makes it taste fabulous. All right, so that's that. Now, our elixirs. Look at this. This is quite strong. I only need a shot glass of this. This is great to have before meals to help to, you know, the bacteria to increase in the gut and to encourage you to also excrete more enzymes so that you can digest the animal foods a lot more easily. And it works, it's fabulous. So first batch, I'm actually make these for clients. I have really got into it. So this again is at least 2 to 3 months it's been going for, and I top it up. So once I've drunk this elixir down, I then top it up with some more coconut water, leave it out on the bench and let it ferment further. And when you know there's little bubbles rising up, you know it's fermenting. So this is great mileage. You get a lot out of it. Now, why I use papaya and pineapple? Pineapple has incredible enzymes in it, as does papaya. Bromelain in the pineapple and papain. And these actually impart those enzymes into the elixir and just make it more potent and help encourage a wider variety of microbiome to start to flourish. So that's fantastic. You can put ginger in there or some turmeric, but it's amazing and it's very economical because you just keep topping it up, all right? And you might want to add a little bit more probiotic, maybe on the 3rd or 4th time that you're topping it up, and just to increase again the fermentation abilities. So it's fantastic, and that's what I have. I pour out some of this into a shot glass and I have it before a meal. Now, I was having it more frequently once I transitioned over. For those who are in places where you can buy fermented kefir water, a bit coconut, you might want to use that instead. But do try and make it yourself. It's a lot more economical, a lot more hands-on, okay? And it's just such a good feeling when you make your own. All right, now the pineapple one. Again, you'll know too when the pineapple starts rising top. I've just taken this off the top. So normally you want to fill this up. So you slice up your pineapple, and depending what jars, I mean, you can put it in different size jars. But again, just use a handful. And I don't measure stuff. Even when I did my vegan books, raw vegan books, I found it really hard to do measurements because I'm an intuitive chef, cook. But when you're making fermented vegetables and fruits, it's a good idea to bring it right up to the top. Make sure there's no air pockets there. And I usually put some wax paper, brown paper, in between. I'm just going to demonstrate with some paper towel, which is not what you use wax paper, and put that in tight because it does create a vacuum. It can be a little bit tight to open again, all right? So, and then you just leave it on the countertop, probably for about a week to get some good fermentation bubbles going. And just if you just shake it slightly, you'll see those start to rise, and you know that there's a lot of activity going on and it's fermenting beautifully. All right, so that's something I recommend. If you don't want to make it, you can buy coconut yogurt if it's in your area, or you can use some raw milk yogurt. Try that and see how it goes with your digestion. But I found this extremely helpful for people who are transitioning, okay? Now, I still have these. I don't have them as frequently now, but I do have them probably every second day just because I enjoy it, you know, and elixir is great. And it really does help build your immune system. And remember, our microbiome surrounds our gut. It really plays such a big part in the state of our immune system. And I have to say mine has increased dramatically. It really has. It's stronger. So it's just wonderful. I'm just so happy about all the changes that are occurring in my health. I really am. And I know that it can happen for you as well. And what gives me so much joy is seeing it in other people, ex-vegans, who are also finding that they're thriving in ways they could never imagine since they started eating more animal foods. All right. So another thing I wanted to mention is coffee. Now, I know a lot of you drink coffee, and particularly if you're doing a keto type of diet, or even some people doing carnivore-ish, carnivore being about 80% animal foods, 80–90%, and a small amount maybe plants. And I see this as very common, but I want to just caution you here, particularly women, because when you start to transition away, particularly from veganism, and your focus is on getting your gut in the healing stage, a lot of people have incredibly damaged guts. You know, they've got leaky gut. They've got infections. They've got parasites. They've got, you know, just the inability to from processing all that fiber. It's weakened a lot of the musculature in the colon as well. So, and small intestine. So, caffeine. First of all, it dehydrates us. Okay, it pulls fluid away from the cells. Can we see this? It's like if you think of a leaf in autumn, when it, you know, it falls from the tree. I mean, in the summer, it was plump and green and full of moisture. So autumn, it's parched and dry. And this is what coffee does to us on the extent that it dries us out. But there's more insidious things going on. It actually interferes with the absorption of B1, B2, B3, and also the ratio, the calcium, potassium ratio and phosphorus ratio. So that's not good. It does destroy nutrients. It also plays havoc with your adrenals. If you're someone who's coming off veganism, the high starch, the high sugar, like I said, the vegan diet is just full of it. You really can't get away from that today. So you're more likely to have some blood sugar instabilities there. And I know a lot of people have found that they leave ex-veganism, and that's one of the issues that is really something they want to heal. And you know, coffee obviously interferes with the output of adrenaline and the your ability to just have a good night's sleep. Definitely does play a part there. So it also does, it makes you hypersensitive, you know, to other things in your gut, and it's highly addictive. Obviously, we know that, but it interferes with the electrical charges in the mitochondria, and there's more research being done, particularly by Jeff Cruz, you know, with this rollout of 5G. He mentioned that we may be finding there's a lot more sensitivity to caffeine as there was with gluten, because of how these frequencies are going to interfere with how caffeine is metabolized in the system, and how it also interferes with dopamine regulation. So there's just too many things. For women, the main thing I've found, and myself as well, is caffeine tends to increase fibrocystic lumps in the breast. And I notice that there's times when I do have coffee, if I'm out, I do notice sensations in my breast the next day. You know, I used to have a lot of issues with lumps. In fact, I had a precancerous, almost cancerous breast lump in 2012. That's another story. And I do feel the fruitarian episode, you know, played a large part in that, but also there was a lot of emotional stress. And, you know, transitioning away also from veganism, particularly if you are healing blood sugar disorders, as I've said, then you're cutting right back on carbohydrates to very low carb. You will find that with this die-off that takes place, because, you know, the die-off will take place once you start to limit the foods that these parasites and bacteria like to thrive in that environment. You'll also find that there'll be emotions that come up. A lot of the time we use sugar. I mean, it's the most addictive thing on the planet. It really is, and the most poisonous. Is how it affects so many systems of the body. And so, yeah, what we find is that the emotions that we've been suppressing often come to the surface. And so we do go through a lot of changes. You've got to expect that. But it's all part of the process. All right? You'll have ups and downs, and it's an interesting journey, that's for sure, for the first couple of months. All right, so I really recommend that you leave the caffeine behind, because it will cause more long-term problems, and it certainly is going to interfere with your digestion, weaken your digestive juices, and really negate what we're trying to do to rebuild not only the microbiome. And a lot of people say too, when you're eating more animal foods and taking out a lot of the plants, that the microbiome does decrease. But it shifts around a bit. The main thing is that we start to produce bile to handle the fats, and fermented foods will help with that. And also increase the type of bacteria that can break the meats down, and also the enzymes, pepsin production in particular. It has a domino effect. Everything starts to work a lot better. So, so that's it. It does weaken your digestion. So, not the great news, because a lot of people love the taste of it, and we've got to remember that we're told it's good for us, but we've got to look at, you know, who's it suiting, who's behind this. Yeah, coffee's really bitter. It's quite toxic in some ways, and you know, to insects, obviously. But look at who's promoting it. It's really important too. So you can substitute some things like oolong tea or you know, green tea, and do it in increments. I find people do well. And these teas don't irritate and weaken the digestion like coffee does. Coffee not only gives you the big boost of mental clarity and energy at the expense of your adrenals, but it, you know, as I said, it rapidly dehydrates your body, and just over time, it's just not a good thing to be doing. Okay, so that's that. Now, another thing I want to mention, which is really interesting, my nails. Now, what I've noticed with a lot of vegan women, they have nail extensions. And I have to admit, over the last 5 years, I wore nail extensions on and off because I wanted to try and grow my own nails. I used to have beautiful, long, strong nails up until about 8 years ago, when they just started to get progressively weaker. But it got to the point where they would really tear easily. You know, obviously I'm not getting the foundational building blocks there. I have to report now, they're like steel. They are so freaking hard. I love it. And, you know, it's so different for me because, you know, for such a long time, I get them to a certain length and they'd be thin and they'd tear, just menial tasks around the house, you know. So this is another thing that's so amazing. It's telling me my body is absorbing iron, it's absorbing minerals, it's absorbing these amino acids, and fermented foods are going to help you do that more as well. You want to have good absorption of these things. And of course that comes out in stools that we know too. So isn't it brilliant? So, you know, when you've got these vegan girls with these long nails, it sort of kind of tells me that their nails aren't really strong. They're very weak. They're breaking. So how was this? Save money everywhere here. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover today. If there's any questions, please let me know. Another thing I wanted to just go over was my skin. Everyone's asking me about my skin. Yeah, I do some really different type of skin routines. I do exfoliate almost every day, but I use things that you would not think of to use. My mother used to scrub her face with a scrubbing brush, and it was quite vigorous. And I used to think, oh, it's damaging her skin, but she had really taut and firm skin too. But I actually use my nails sometimes because it's just incredible the amount of buildup that happens on our faces, you know, dead skin cells. And sometimes I use a cloth that's almost like a bit of a scourer. I use that, and I use that with a bit of cacao butter and first, and then use that, and it really does take that off. I've also got a fantastic cream I make, which I put some essential oils and some aloe vera in as well. So I'll share that next time. All right. So there we go. If there's any questions, please let me know below, and anything else you'd like me to discuss. I'll be doing some more interviews shortly, so I look forward to that. And if you'd like to be interviewed, please email me. The email's down below, rawwomenswisdom@gmail.com. And I'd love to hear from you. And follow me on Instagram. And I really feel passionate to build this channel up and to bring you information. So I'll be also sharing some wisdom regarding dealing with the physical changes of transitioning, but also the emotional and mental side, because that can be quite difficult in some ways for some people, because they're confronted with these emotions and feelings that the high carb, high vegan diet has kind of kept pushed down a little. So it's all part of growing into the best version of yourself, a version that is so much more in tune with our biology and in alignment with that. Okay, I mean, most people are noticing such a difference with me, and I'm amazed. I've got incredible shape and muscle. I mean, it's fantastic for me, I've got to say. But I haven't really been doing any exercise, as I said, because I've been writing. Now, on a vegan diet, I was just losing so much muscle mass. And anyway, that's all behind me now. And I hope it encourages you, because you can gain this back easily. And really, we're not meant to stress our bodies out with a lot of exercise. Just by doing simple things around the house and walking. Walking's brilliant. But another thing, I'm going to give you some tips too on how to get back in a grounded state with your body, particularly if you work a lot online, you're on the computer a lot. What I really encourage you to do is take 10-minute breaks, go outside, kick off your shoes, stand on the grass or ground, and just allow your body to sink in with the earth's resonance, the human resonance, okay? So that's really important. And there are some other things which I'll talk about in the next videos, which I've been implementing in my life, and I found it fantastic, particularly going to bed a lot earlier and getting up earlier. I used to be an absolute night owl for years, a bit of an artist and a writer, so I tend to keep those hours, but I found my circadian rhythms were so out of whack that around 8, 9 o'clock at night, I was just starting to get revved up. I was ready to go. So I'd be up to 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. That really increases inflammation big time. Another thing I'll mention too before we go, and that is to increase your fat intake. What I found is that some people transition to more animal foods, but their mind again is still blocking off that fat is bad. So it does take time. I mean, it's taken me a lot of months to get where I am now, but do increase your intake of fatty fish, purely from DHA. It's just so essential. A lot of the frequencies that we're being immersed in the cities, and with EMF technology, and it's increasing, is interfering with the way that we assimilate DHA. And that's so vital for our immunity and for our neurological functioning. So I've also found that I've been able to get some salmon heads here. There's an incredible amount of great nutrition in a salmon head, particularly the brain. It's nice, gooey. It's beautiful. Who thought I've been saying that? But since I've been doing this and I'm having, at least every second day, I found that any remaining aches and pains, I had a little bit in my hip, knees popping is also indicative of, a little bit of kidney stress, but also the inflammation and needing more fats. So now that's disappeared. So I do encourage you to try and get more fatty fish in as much as possible. And it's going to show on your skin, it really will. If I sear a salmon head just lightly, it will release at least 2 tablespoons of fresh fish oil. I mean, it's amazing, beautiful pink color, and I have that. So it's just doing me the world of good. So forget your supplements. You don't need those. Like I said, if we knew what was, how they were made and what they do to them, most of these fish oil things are so rancid, you wouldn't want to put them in your body, and particularly the way they're processed. So get out of that supplement rot. I've got rid of so many of my stuff I used to have. It's just so freeing, and you save so many dollars by eating straight from the food. So I'm going to continue growing my nails. I just love it. So these are some more benefits, and I'm going to share some more that I'm experiencing, particularly in libido and particularly in my hormones, and just some other things that you might not consider would improve or that would be an incredible benefit. So you don't even need hormones, biological hormones, any of those things as you get older, because you don't have to lose them. All right. And another thing too is to make sure you give yourself lots of self-care. One thing I found really important is to have some deep massages. It helps to move stagnant areas where there's buildups of lactic acid, also where you've held a lot of emotion in the body. Works wonders for me. I often do a lot of releasing, emotional releasing about that. It's also how I actually got to make this lump I had in my breast disappear. It's a great story, but I did. So just remember, we're multifaceted. It's not all about the food, okay? Emotions, stress is so significant in how it affects ourselves and our state of well-being. If a lot of us weren't stressed by money, by environment, through different relationships, not having strong boundaries, work situations we're in that we don't want to be in. If we took a lot of the stresses out of our bodies, out of our lives, our bodies, we'd also be taking it out of our bodies, but we would be so much more healthier and happier. So that's another thing too. And it's very easy to get addicted to stress, believe it or not, having some level of stress in your life, because we're actually conditioned to do that, particularly with time. Times that we have to do this, I have to do that, busy, busy, busy. And it's certainly taking me, a little bit of deprogramming of that, because coming to a rural area and really getting immersed in the simplistic life, you have to watch the mind, because it can over-generate these feelings of, you've got to be doing something that's productive, and that just generates so much stress. We should be able to feel that we can just be in ourselves and to enjoy our surroundings and just being here on the planet. So, all right. Okay, so lots of love. And again, thank you to all the new subscribers. Please use the like button down below and feel free to comment. And I look forward to sharing some more wisdom with you in the next video. Okay, lots of love. And bye for now. See you soon.